If your CI/CD implementation on IBM Z only made deployments faster, you may have increased risk without realizing it. Most organizations proudly say they've adopted DevOps, but when you ask one simple question, what actually changed? The room usually goes quiet. So let's make this practical. When CI/CD is done properly on IBM Z, what genuinely changes?
Hmm. The first thing that changes is mindset. Because in many environments, automation gets added, pipelines are created, dashboards appear, but engineering discipline stays exactly the same. And on IBM Z, that's not transformation, that's decoration.
That's strong. Why is it more serious on IBM Z Day than on distributed platforms?
Because on distributed systems, CI CD often optimizes for speed. Push code, trigger pipeline, deploy to cloud, roll back if something fails. The blast radius is smaller, infrastructure is elastic, failure recovery is built into the architecture. But on IBM Z, you are modifying systems that may process millions of financial transactions per hour. Core banking, clearing, settlement, payroll, insurance. The tolerance for error is fundamentally different. You don't experiment in that environment, you engineer confidence.
So speed isn't the primary metric?
Speed matters. But speed without traceability is operational risk, and automation without dependency awareness is instability. Large COBOL ecosystems are deeply interconnected. Programs call programs, batch interacts with online. Data definitions evolve over decades. Copybooks ripple across systems. If you automate deployment without understanding that topology, you scale uncertainty, not agility.
So, what actually changes when DevOps is implemented correctly? Let's get concrete.
Several structural shifts happen. First, version control becomes foundational. Git isn't a side tool, it becomes the system of record. Change history becomes transparent. Branches become intentional. Merge discipline becomes cultural. Second, builds become deterministic. Manual compiles disappear. Pipelines produce artifacts the same way every time. What is tested is exactly what is promoted. No surprises between environments. Third, promotion models become explicit. Development, SIT, UAT, production, not managed by emails or memory, encoded in automation, with approvals, with traceability, with audit clarity.
That sounds like governance evolution, not just tooling.
Exactly. Organizations that succeed here do not treat DevOps as tooling modernization. They treat it as governance modernization. And that difference is massive. Because tooling gives you automation, but governance gives you trust. And without trust, automation scales risk.
Let's go deeper. What about impact analysis? Because that's where many teams struggle.
Yes, impact analysis is where DevOps on IBM Z either becomes mature or becomes reckless. Before recompilation, you must understand who calls this program, what copybooks are affected, what batch chains are downstream, what CI/CS transactions reference it. If your pipeline doesn't integrate dependency intelligence, you're flying blind. Modern CI and CD on IBM Z must integrate. Static analysis, dependency mapping, change scope visualization. That's what makes it enterprise grade.
So, the biggest transformation isn't speed, it's visibility.
Precisely. Visibility is the real unlock. Architects see artifact lineage. Operations see deployment flow. Auditors see traceable change history. Leadership sees risk reduction. That visibility reduces anxiety, and when anxiety reduces, change velocity increases naturally, but intelligently.
What does not change? Because that's equally important.
The need for rigor does not change. The responsibility attached to production change does not change. Regulatory expectations do not change. DevOps on IBM Z is not about mimicking cloud patterns, it's about extending engineering discipline into automation. Hybrid modernization does not remove control, it formalizes it.
So, if you had to summarize CI/CD on IBM Z in one sentence,
It is not about moving fast, it is about moving intelligently. With control, with traceability, with confidence. And that is a very different conversation. And that's why CI/CD on IBM Z isn't really a tooling conversation. It's a leadership conversation. It's about how organizations choose to manage change, how they choose to manage risk, how they choose to build trust into systems. Because in the end, technology is just the surface. The real transformation happens in the decisions behind it.
In the end, it's not about the platform, it's about the decisions behind it. You've been listening to the zMainframes podcast, where we explore real world insights around IBM Z systems, hybrid and cloud modernization, DevOps transformation across platforms, and large scale enterprise evolution. If this episode added value, consider subscribing and join us as we continue decoding complex enterprise systems in a practical way. Until next time, keep thinking beyond the code